Very good afternoon to respected dean, associate deans, keynote speaker, and all participants from other countries, as from Myanmar, I think, and most from Myanmar. And then I would like to say in Thai, Sawadi Krap, or to all of you. In Burmese, we can say Ming Karaba. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Translation webinar on to become a so-called soul-fry translator, how organized by HUSOC Translation Interpretation Service Unit, or you can call it HUSOCTISU. Under the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Buriram Ratchapat University, Thailand. I am Assistant Professor HUSOC-BRU, Associate Dean for Educational Assurance, Information, and Foreign Affairs. I'm also the head of Translation and Interpretation Service Unit. This is my great honor to be MC for today's. First of all, may I briefly inform all of you about this translation webinar. The objectives of establishing the HUSOCTISU are mainly to provide translation and interpretation services for internationally and standardized foreign languages, and to connect the HUSOCTISU with international networks of translation and interpretations. This translation webinar is also a part of those objectives to link the HUSOCTISU with international networks of translation and interpretation. A total of all participants who registered for the webinar today is about 67 participants. Upon this time occasion, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Assistant Professor Dr. Akarapon Ngamai, the Dean of Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Buriram Ratchapat University, to deliver the welcome and opening remarks, please.
Ming Kalaba. Thank you very so much, Associate Dean, Assistant Professor HUSOC-BRU, the head of HUSOCTISU, for hosting this webinar today. On behalf of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Buriram Ratchapat University, first of all, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our keynote speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Thiravit Pinyunathakan from Chinawatra University, for his invaluable time to deliver very interesting topic today, that is to become a soul-fly translator. How in Thai I would say อาจารย์ปุ้มนะแปลให้ปัง in Thai we can say แปลให้ปังได้อย่างไรนะจะเป็นนักแปลให้ปังได้อย่างไร This is very interesting topic indeed. Alright, อาจารย์ปุ้มอาจารย์ปิงอาจารย์เก๋ and others colleagues, you must come and help us carry out this translation works effectively. All right, not just only our keynote speaker from Chinawatra University, Associate Professor Thiravit today coming to be our keynote speaker, but also we have our friends, academic friends from other countries, including Myanmar and India. I think now Professor Nini Lai also be with us. Thank you very so much for her contributions to our academic project. Besides that, we also have the PhD students in English language teaching who assigned to, with no objection, join this webinar. All right. Why I would like them to join this webinar? Because 14 PhD students, they are going to study the PhD, one of the PhD subject, that is advanced translation and interpretation for English language teaching. Maybe next 2 terms, they are going to study this course with me. Of course, we are going to invite Associate Professor Thiravid to be a co-lecturer of this course as well. Not just only Associate Professor Dr. Thiravid, we also have other professional translator from both Thailand and overseas coming to carry out this course effectively, from Myanmar, from India, also from other Thai universities like NIDA. All right, so all PhD students are invited to join this webinar in order to get the overall pictures of translation, and then they might apply this technique or translation approaches from Dr. Thiravid for their courses next semester, right? So thank you very so much, my colleagues from English program and also business English program, and some of them from education English as well, coming to take part in this academic webinar. So on behalf of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Buriram Ratchapat University, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all of you for your initiative participation in this webinar. And last but not least, I would like to invite all of you as participants, please join me to give a big applause, a big hand to our keynote speaker today, Associate Professor Thiravid Piyuratakan. Please join me to give a big hand to our keynote speaker. Thank you very so much, sir, for your invaluable time to deliver very interesting topic today. Lastly, I think it's a good time for you. I don't think you want to listen to my speech much. I think you are waiting for our keynote speaker, I guess. So at this auspicious moment, I would like to declare the webinar on to become a Soulfly Translator House officially open. Thank you very so much. ขอบคุณและสวัสดีครับ
Thank you, the Dean of Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, for delivering the welcome and opening remarks for today. Okay, before we begin, I would like to give a brief introduction about our keynote speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Thiravid Piyuratakan, who is the lecturer from Shinawat University, Pathum Thani Province, Thailand. He graduated in doctoral degree in linguistics from University of Delhi in India. For his previous positions, he used to be the director of Translation and Interpretation Center at School of Foreign Languages, Suratnari University of Technology, Nakhon Ratchasima, Thailand. He has got many books he wrote. For example, the books on how to speak like a native speaker, American, vice versa British, and also he got e-books. It's about 27 e-books available on World Wide Web e-books in.ts Diamond Books. And also he have got major research academic articles. It's about 5 articles. For example, how to learn foreign language, interesting fact about dictionaries, the syntax and semantic for in Thai language and linguistic journal. And he also joined the international conference. He have got 11 papers for this conference. for examples, for machine translation in Thailand. And now he is director of School of Liberal Arts from Shinawat University, Bhutan, in Thailand. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to welcome our keynote speaker, Assistant Professor Dr. Thirawit Pinyo Natagan from Shinawat University, Thailand. The webinar is yours now. Turn on your microphone, please.
Okay, let's test something. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sir, very clearly, sir.
Okay, and you can see me, right?
Yes, sir. You look really handsome today, sir. Very smart.
Okay, we are
As
far
usual.
away. We are far away, but we are close now. Digitally, online.
Sir, Thirawit, we also have Dr. Pravita from Bangladesh.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So nice to
Feeling
have
blessed.
you in. So
Thank
nice to
you.
have you with us. Thank you so much. Well, let me start by saying thank you very much to Dean of Humanities and Social Science of Buriram Ratchapat University, Associate Professor Dr. Akharapon Nermaihom, and also Associate Dean Professor Subhikit Puwong. And also, I would like to thank all the participants today for honoring me attending this lecture or workshop. I'm so glad, I'm so honored to be given a chance to talk online via Zoom with all of the distinguished lecturers, professors, and participants from Thailand, as well as from other neighboring countries. I feel so proud of Buriram Ratchapat University. This is a very active, very dynamic university in the northeastern part of Thailand, if not in the whole country, okay, in Thailand. So it's catching up very dynamically with the leadership of the Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences, Associate Professor Dr. Akharapon Nermaihom. I'm so thankful to you and your colleagues, your team at BRU, and also my best wishes and regards to your faculty and to the president of the university, Ratchapat Buriram University. All right, now, let me start with my share, okay, of the PowerPoint. I would go by the PowerPoint, which I have prepared. So I would start sharing the screen now. So please wait for a few minutes. Thank you. All right, can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
I intended to talk about translation and meaning, even though both themes may not seem so closely related, but I feel it's important. If you are a translator, you need to know the science of meaning, all right? Various interpretations of meaning. So I intended to add meaning after the word translation and meaning, all right? And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the workshop's title, the workshop name, because I couldn't prepare it in time. So it's there, all right, on the your brochure. It's right there. So let me start with the first slide here. Is it there? Oh, it's not coming. Okay, it's coming. Okay. As you all know, I think you are aware of this. What is translation? I'm just repeating something, all right? Just a kind of reviewing your knowledge, revitalizing your dynamism in translation. So translation, we can see it as an activity that aims at conveying meaning or meanings of a given linguistic discourse from one language to another. So it can be defined in different ways. in terms of sameness of meaning across languages. And there can be no absolute, remember, there can be no absolute correspondence between languages, and hence no fully exact translations. There is no 100% translation in this world. So translation at some level is always possible. Meaning is formed on each occasion of linguistic interaction and is unique and not replicable, all right? So I will just move quickly to the next slide because I have limited time and I skip some of the things and focusing only on the main parts of my presentation, all right? By definition, translation is the communication of the meaning of a source language text by means of an equivalent target language text. The English language draws a terminological distinction between translating a written text and interpreting oral or sign language communication between users of different languages. So under this distinction, translation can begin only after the appearance of writing within a language community. So your job as a translator always risks inadvertently introducing source language words, grammar or syntax into the target language rendering. On the other hand, such spillovers have sometimes imported useful source language COCs and loanwords that have enriched target languages. We as translators, including translators of sacred texts, especially our Buddhist holy text, the Pitaka, or Christian holy text, the Bible, have helped shape the very languages into which they have translated. Next slide. I skipped some of the thing here. Now, I would like to talk about various types of translation, and you need to classify yourself which type of translation you are specializing in, or your main focus is, so that you can be a great, awesome, cool translator in your field. We have to admit that we cannot translate everything, and we don't know everything, all right? We know some of the things in this world, and we can be very good at only some of the things, not everything, all right? The first type of translation is technical translation, which is about translating users' manuals, instructions, leaflets, internal notes, medical translation, financial reports, minutes of proceedings, administrative terms in general, and so forth. The second type is scientific translation, which is a subgroup of technical translation. Scientific translation deals with documents in the domain of science, whether articles, theses, papers, Congress booklets, presentations, study reports, and the likes. The next type of translation is financial or economic translation. Some of you are very good at financial or economic translation. Some of you may not be very good, but everyone can try anyway. Financial or economic translation deals mainly with documentation relating to the links, to the likes, of finance, banking, and stock exchange activity. The fourth type is legal translation, which covers a wide range of very different documents. These may include legal documents such as summons and warrants, administrative texts such as registration certificates, corporate statutes, and remittance drafts, technical documents such as expert opinions and texts for judicial purposes, and of course, a number of other texts in addition to reports and minutes of court proceedings. The fifth type is judicial translation. There are close, between legal translation, judicial translation, and court translation. You need to distinguish clearly between the three types of law translations. The fifth type is judicial translation. Judicial translation refers to the task of translation undertaken in court setting. All right. So if you are a judicial translator, you are specializing in translating documents such as letters, rogatory, minutes of proceedings, judgments, expert opinions, deposition, minutes of interrogation sessions, etc., etc. And the next type of translation, the sixth, juridical, not judicial this time, juridical translation. Juridical translation refers to legally binding documentation. For example, it could be the translation of documents such as laws, regulations, and decrees, general sales and purchase conditions, legally binding contracts such as labor, license, and commercial contracts, partnership agreements, accords, protocols, and conventions, internal regulations, insurance policies, and bail assurance, among others. So if you are a juridical translator, you must have a solid legal background in addition to your linguistic training, right? And number 7, certified translation. A certified translator, some of you already certified or licensed, may use their signature to authenticate official translations. These are usually documents which require legal validation and thus referred to as certified. So certified translators often work in courtrooms as juridical translators or act in the capacity of a legal expert, as well as providing translations of civil status, documentation, marital agreements, divorce settlements, diseases, and wills. Okay. Number 8, type 8, literary translation, which is considered the hardest of all different kinds of translation. You as a translator must first try to render the semantic content of the original text. I repeat, the semantic content of the original text, and then deal with a number of other difficulties, such as polysemic wordplay specific to literary texts, as behind a word or a phrase there lie a number of connotations, which the writer has tried to transmit or hint at subtly, and which you as the translator must attempt to render the author's own particular literary style. The translator must try to transmit the unique way in which the writer has couched their ideas, rhythm, meter, and the innate balance of the phrase. Well, next slide would be something about the principles of translation. I would like to bring you back to the original translation, original principles of translation. Even now, in our modern days, in our modern times, we have a lot of principles, of course, with the inception, with the introduction of technology, of Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, everything. So we have so many principles, but I just like to go back to original principles of translation, which are still applicable and useful even in our modern days, our modern time, right now. Our Lord HUSOC-BRU, formerly known as Alexander Fraser Tytler, born in 1747, died in 1813. He is the author of essay on the principles of translation, describing being originally published in 1791 and still relevant today. He sets down principles for translation, which I like. In particular, I like his principles a lot. And he gives some guidelines in his book for quality assessment that are strikingly modern. These are the three principles set down or laid down by Lord HUSOC-BRU. Principle number one, I keep these three principles in mind all the time, plus modern principles, okay, of our time. A translation should give a complete transcript of the ideas of the original work, a complete transcript of the ideas of the original work. We all accept this. This is a universal principle of all time, not just 50 years ago or 100 years ago, even now, okay? Principle number two, the style and manner of writing should be of the same character as that of the original. Your style of translation, your manner of translation should be, not must be, but should be of the same character, the same type, the same style, the same manner as that of the original, which is very difficult. Many men, many minds, different styles, different translators, as we all understand. And principle number three, a translation should have all the ease of original composition, should have all the ease of original composition, should be easily understood as the original version, right? So three original principles of translation laid down, established, formulated by Lord HUSOC-BRU. Okay, very good. You should all keep these three principles in mind, plus your own principles and other useful principles of translation. All right, let me move on to the next slide. In fact, I should learn how to move it faster, better than this. Okay, let's discuss a little bit about the first principle, which is very obvious. It means no errors, no omissions, no errors, no omissions, okay? So the translator is not supposed to make additions, to make amendments, to make annotation, except possibly when working on esoteric literary texts. The translator should not play the game or rewriting an original text so that it says what the author meant or what the author should have said. At this point, I would like to share a Russian proverb with you. It's a proverb about translation. Beautiful translation may not be faithful translation. You made very beautiful translation, but it's far away from the original, so it's not faithful translation. So remember, beautiful translation may not be a good translation. It may be something else, all right? It's not faithful translation. And the second proverb I would like to share with you is from Italy, Italian proverb, meaning in English, like a translator is a traitor. A translator is a traitor. You know that, all right? You are a traitor when you are a translator. You betray the original text. Sometimes you betray. You don't really go deep into the original version. You made some mistake on the way. You make some errors in your translation. So you are a traitor, right? A translator is a traitor. Sometimes, not for everyone. Just keep the proverb in mind to prevent your errors. That's it. The second principle is similarly obvious, though very difficult to execute in our practice. All right, very hard to put into practice. What it means is that it means a translator must not only have a complete command of writing in the target language, that is your native language in almost all cases, but also you must be able to perceive stylistic touches and understand their meaning in the original text. So the second principle is a bit hard, all right? Because you have to have a complete command of both languages, source language and the target language, plus your knowledge of culture and other things surrounding the environment, the context of your translation. The third principle is, of course, admittedly, the hardest of all, the hardest to achieve, because it harks back to, okay, I got it, the axiom here, the Russian axiom. Okay, it's here, I mentioned it earlier. It's here that if a translation is beautiful, it is not faithful. If a translation is beautiful, it is not faithful. And if it is faithful, it is not beautiful. Sorry. Maybe it can be applied to you, ladies. I'm just joking. Some ladies are very, very beautiful, but they may not be faithful. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. There is a delicate balance to achieve here. So a translation should not sound like a translation. A translation should not sound like a translation. It's quite contradictory in terms, but just think carefully and you'll see the light. You will understand the meaning. All right. So all of these three principles are still open to debate, to your questioning, and in some cases can be deliberately ignored or even ridiculed, depending on your experience, on your knowledge, on your understanding, on your advanced technology that will help you to be a better translator, okay? You just don't need to base yourself on these three principles alone. You have more, your own plus something else, okay? Let me move on to the next slide. Maybe I have only about 20 minutes left. I have to move quickly now. This is the transition from translation to meaning. You need to study the science of meaning to be a good translator, all right? Because translation is mostly about meaning translation. It's not word by word translation. It's a translation for meaning, not a translation for word, all right? So there are popular views of meaning in linguistics, of course. I'm citing linguistics now. And they believe no aspect of language is more important than meaning. In any language, meaning is the most important. Meaning is what we try to communicate, we try to convey, we try to express, all right? Our feeling, our emotion, everything inside you to others. to understand you. Meaning is number one in our language. So look at the following examples. She didn't mean to offend you. Those clouds mean rain. Lord Buddha finally discovered what life means. The word cactus means a plant with spines. The word cactus means a plant with aureoles. When I say close the window, I mean close the window. And the last sentence, when John said no, he really meant maybe. So in its various forms, the word mean can designate notions such as intention, your intention, causal relation, overall intelligibility, share knowledge, share understanding, and even simple definition. All right, so you can see one word can mean different things to different people. Okay, next. Now it's about linguistic view of meaning. Semantics is a science of meaning. It deals with the literal meaning of words and sentences. And then pragmatics comes forward, dealing with non-literal meanings that arise in context. Okay, we can expand the definition of pragmatics further by contrasting two senses of the word context, linguistic context, the actual words and sentences that precede and follow an utterance, and two, situational context, which is extra-linguistic context. It is the situation that accompanies the utterance. In our case, the document that we are trying to translate. So extra-linguistic context is quite variable and includes the following things here. Objects in the immediate environment, knowledge shared by the speaker and the hearer. In your case, the translator and your audience, the reader of your translation. And number three, level of formality, okay? So these are what we call extra-linguistic context. Next, semantics involves, number one, the literal meaning of words, and number two, the literal meanings of sentences considered outside their context. All right, these are the examples. I will not go into detail. I just move on to the next slide. And we learned that our linguistic competence, we all have linguistic competence. You have linguistic competence, you have communicative competence, and you have social linguistic competence as well, all right? And other competence based on what we call intelligences. Competence, your linguistic competence will allow you to do many things. For example, to distinguish between, in terms of linguistics, of course, between well and ill-formed strings of words. And with your linguistic competence, you can detect, especially in your native language, detect grammatical structure and detect ambiguity. In the domain of semantics, we all can identify abilities that indicate the presence of competence. You can see this famous sentence. It's very famous in linguistics. Everybody who is doing linguistics must understand this, must know this, must study this sentence. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. This is taken from Chomsky, Noam Chomsky, the father of modern linguistics, one of the 100 men of ideas in this century. So this sentence is grammatically well formed. I made some mistake there. Sentence 10, all right? Compare with the this sentence, all green jalopies deteriorate rapidly. Okay, the meanings of the words don't literally fit together, thus rendering the sentence semantically ill-formed, no meaning, colorless green ideas sleeplessly. It's all about contradiction. Okay, there is no real meaning. Ill form, no meaning. All right, but grammatically it's correct. Subject, verb, object, adverb, blah blah blah. Everything is perfect in terms of grammar, but not in terms of semantics, not in terms of meaning. Okay, next. I would like to propose some of the models so that we understand various angles of the meaning. One of the famous model is this one, the Componential Model or C model, which is based on the premise that words are collections of many smaller units of meaning. Words are collections of many smaller units of meaning. All right? And a word is essentially a shorthand way of grouping a set of concepts under a single label. Okay, you know something about componential model, okay? It is based on the assumption that words are collections of many smaller units of meaning. Units of meaning, okay? Not units of syllable, but units of meaning. All right, next. Maybe we have another model. Okay, here's another model, the network model. While the C model holds that primitive concepts lie at the root of meaning, the network model or N model postulates, assume that such concepts don't really exist. There's no such concept. So semantic competence in you, in me, in everyone here is to be explained on the assumption that words conceived of as whole entities and not broken down into components have certain primitive relations with each other. In other words, to make it clearer, our semantic competence doesn't really consist of knowing definition at all, but rather of knowing how words relate to each other, how words are related to each other. All right, this is the network model. And next point is about the relationships between the C model and the N model. There are some relationships, of course. Okay, you might favor the N model on the ground that when asked the meaning of a word, people tend to provide synonyms rather than fully specified definitions. The ability, as mentioned by Landau, the ability to state adequate definitions is beyond the capabilities of most speakers. So psycholinguistic experiments likewise favor the N model as the more natural model of meaning. If we notice that both approaches fall short of fully describing the meanings of words, the similar lack of complete synonymy between words, such as stampede and scatter, where the former typically apply to cattle, and the latter to a much wider range of entities. For example, humans, animals, marbles. This objection may be overcome by relegating such matters to pragmatics. So on this score, the two approaches both come out as adequate in what they propose to accomplish as semantic theories. They both, to me, complement each other mutually, though mutually exclusive, but they complement each other. So it's possible, maybe you can see the light. You can combine the two approaches by yourself, or according to this, in the form of a componentially augmented network or CA network. Componentially augmented network. You can do this. I think you can combine the two models and have your own model so that you can move on with your specialization in translation. All right, next, it's, semantic networks. Maybe you can have this kind of thing. May will serve as devices to abbreviate redundant or repetitive semantic details. Okay, for example, this is a very good example. The fact that anything which the component human is also animate is a major redundancy that might be represented in people's minds through a taxonomy of animate beings as hyponyms of the superordinate category of animacy. Okay, it's a little bit complicated here, so let's forget that. Let's move on to the conclusion, okay, so that we have time for discussion and sharing things. Well, to summarize, a translation is the communication of meaning. Remember this, keep this in mind always. Meaning of what? Meaning of a source language text. By means of what? By means of an equivalent target language text. And in case of English, the English language draws a terminological distinction between translating a written text and interpreting oral or sign language communication between users of different languages. Under this distinction, translation can begin only after the appearance of writing within a language community. If there is no document, you cannot do anything. You cannot be a translator, all right? So a translator usually risks inadvertently introducing source language words, grammar, or syntax in the target language rendering. This is what we call mother tongue interference. We all have that kind of thing, mother tongue interference. If we are not a native speaker of that language, we tend to have this kind of thing, all right? So on the other hand, the spillovers have sometimes imported useful source language clocks and loanwords that have, enriched target languages. Finally, translators, including early translators of sacred texts, have helped shape the very language into which we have translated. Give me a few minutes more. Okay, I would like to add more. I couldn't prepare the slide, but I would like to add that in our modern time, in our modern day now, there is a new field of translation coming up very strongly, what we call semiotic translation. We are not going to translate just document, just paper, all right? We are going to translate the icon. We are going to translate the images. We are going to translate the symbols, the indexes as well. So acquaint yourself, educate yourself in semiotics of translation or translation of semiotics or semiotics of translation in interdisciplinary field. It's coming up very strongly. I'm teaching semiotics at Chinwatra University to about 100 Chinese students who enrolled, registered for this course for the last 3 years now. So I can see the trend. The trend is moving toward semiotic translation rather than paper translation or document translation. There are some good books available on Amazon.com or on major bookstores around the world. You can just catch some of the books about semiotics or translation and semiotics. I have some slides to show you, but I don't think I have time for that. So with that, I would like to end my presentation and open the floor for our discussion and sharing your experience. Professor Nini Liang from Burma, very close friend of mine and great friend from Myanmar. You might have something to share with me and others in our audience room here. So with that, thank you, Professor Akarapon, Professor Supakit Puwong, for giving me a chance to present some of the ideas about translation. I think I've done my job now. I would like to hear from you and exchange view with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Thiravid Pinyo Natakan, for your wonderful presentations. And
I can stop my share, right? I can stop my share.
yes,
So that
it's time to for Q&A questions.
Okay,
Professor
I'll stop my share first.
Okay, sir.
Okay, and get back to our timeline. Yes, to you.
Professor
Okay.
Ninis,
Yes,
would you like to
Professor-
share your ideas, or
Yeah, Professor Subhakit,
or
yes,
other
yes.
participants
Invite
would like
some
to
of our lecturers.
ask questions for the webinars? You can.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
Professor
you.
Nene, please.
Good.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ek. So firstly, I'd like to say Dr. Dhiravid for your insightful presentation.
Oh, thank you very much.
Today, yes, today you have discussed very widely, so based on your own ideas, so such as you have discussed types of translation, and then you move to principles of translation, and then you presented popular views of meaning, and lastly, you mentioned network models. So they are very good for studying translation, and translation enables effective communication between people around the world. So it is a katia for the transmission of knowledge and a protector of cultural heritage and essential to the development of global economy. So highly skilled translators are the key. So translation studies help us, practitioners, develop those skills. So thank you for your insightful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Professor
I had
Ninis.
your clip for 1 minute.
And Dr. Potiwa Rani, and could you share your idea?
Yes, very good.
Thank you so much, sir, for your thought-provoking, informative, and elaborate presentation on translation. I have a question, sir. There are some dialects used in literature, in poems, even in Bangladesh. You know, we usually follow the connotative meaning of the writers. Because if we go for the denotative and dictionary meaning, it looks odd. And some of the words of the dictionary context that the words have changed the meaning with the passage of time. But while translating, would just what is your suggestion? That I usually say that you have to follow the time. That means the mood, tone, and expression and purpose of the writer when he wrote this poem. That means will you strict with the dialectical meaning or will you go for the standard meaning? That is the question. And I loved the presentation too much because I have been translating poems. And I think that we need also love and feelings and emotion while translating because we have to communicate with the writer. That means at the time of translating, the writer doesn't remain with us. But I think that I communicate with my sixth sense and mind. And I get result while I love the piece of work while translating. So before going to word, we need to put through our love and emotion while translating, sir. Do you think am I right? Just thank you so much, sir.
Exactly. You are 100% correct.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful comment. Thank you.
So I would like to have one question from PhD student group. Yi Monshaw, I think you have some question to ask our keynote speaker.
Yes, go
one
ahead.
question from Burmese PhD student and one question from Thai PhD student, please. On
students. Wonderful.
As a representative of Burmese students and also Thai student, please. Maybe Sirapapa will be a representative of Thai group, and maybe Yi Moncho and other students. Please, one question, please.
Yes, first of all, I would like to give my deepest thanks for Dr. Professor and all of the participants for today. Really, I'm very delightful for this webinar because I can get a lot of general knowledge and experience concerning with the translation. Because when I teach my student in my university, I found that most of my university, they are facing a lot of challenges and problems in translation. Because what I find that the most difficulties they are facing is that when they are translating the words concerning with their culture. So most of my students, they are having the cultural problems in translation. So here, I would like to know about that. How can we solve for my students, and which will be the best techniques? Yes.
Oh, thank you very much for your question. Very easy question, but very difficult to answer.
Really? I do agree. Yes, I do agree. Yeah. Easy question,
but the answer is so hard. My God. Okay, the first thing your students should have. The first thing your student should have is a command of 2 languages. Okay, the target language and the source language. Your student must be able to translate from one language to another language with equal ease to understand, all right? So they need to educate themselves in terms of linguistic competence first, and then followed by communicative competence, how to translate and make meaning out of the original text to make others to understand the original meaning, but in another language, all right? It's the art, okay, of transition from one language to another language. You need to have the knowledge of both languages, number 1. And number 2, you need to follow the procedure of translation. You have to understand the process of translation, various types of translations, and use appropriate words, terms, sentences, okay, suitable for that particular purpose, from one language to another. You are moving from one soul to another soul, from one mind to another mind, but with the same meaning. So you have to keep the same meaning, the same sense of the language between the source language and the target language. Okay, you are the mediator, the medium, ransom, all right? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
It's a lot of things to do. Okay.
Yes.
So,
thank you very much,
Yi Moncho, don't worry. Yeah, Dr. Thiruvit will be invited by us.
Okay,
yes,
I love
Myanmar.
Mandalay.
Yes.
I've been to Mandalay. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is one of our PhD students. They are going to study advanced translation next maybe next to semester. Yes, of course, Dr. Thiruvit will be invited as our guest lecturer. So Yi Menshu, any question,
Yes.
easy or difficult? I'm very certain that Dr. Thiruvit can answer your questions for sure. Yes.
Yes,
Sirapapa
thank
from
you.
Thailand. Sirapapa as a representative of Thai students. Sirapapa, please. Sirapapa.
Okay. Thank you so much for your informative presentation. It's very useful.
Could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay, my name is Sirapapa
You're still wearing a mask.
I'm in the office, sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
She's working in the office. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
I'm in the office.
I see.
And I'm working at Surina Rajpat University. I'm a lecturer in Bachelor of Education in English.
Oh,
And I would like
Great.
to ask, like, I have been teaching for almost 2 years, but I haven't been teaching translation yet. But as a professor in a translation field, what is the hardest part in teaching translation to Thai students, and
Oh,
how do you,
teaching.
yeah, and how do you overcome the students' problem in translation when sometimes their target language is not so fluent? Yes.
Okay, okay, very good question, and very difficult to answer.
Yes, again, yes.
It's the same, always difficult. Okay. Well, we're talking about teaching problems, okay? Teaching of translation problems would involve so many things. Your environment, your student, your preparation. But all in all, you need to do two things, theory and practice, okay? You can start with theory, blah, blah, here and there, but every time you must end with your practice. Your students must learn the first hand. They must have on hands experience, on the job experience. We cannot just teach them how to, but we have to give them the chance to make it happen, okay? So the combination, the suitable combination of your theory and practice on the part of the students should constitute a major part of teaching competence. In our case, in my case as well, I have the same problem. Our students are not ready yet. They don't know English well enough. Even their own language is not good enough. So we have to train them sometime from scratch, from zero, from the beginning. But we have to be very patient teaching these kind of students. We have to teach outside our class as well, not just in the classroom. There may not be enough time for that. Assign the work more often, all right? Let them work, let them do things by themselves, and you support them with the theory, with your comments, all right? With some good examples from different parts of the world, especially from Thai authors, Thai translators. We have some good Thai translators, so you can show some examples from novel translation or document translation. So learning by doing is still the best policy. All right, John. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the time is over now. So we have let us stop now. And I would like to invite the deans of Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences to say thank you and thank you the keynote speaker and all participants right now, please.
Thank you very so much, Mr. MC. On behalf, I think that only 1 hour not enough for our professor to give very interesting lecture on translation. At this time, yes, of course, it's kind of what was that? Is the first step of having the webinar on translation. I think next time, maybe one-day workshop will be carried out by our keynote speaker.
One day.
Yes, one day.
One day.
It might be divided into 2 sessions. The first session will be translation, and the second session in the afternoon will be about interpretation. I would like to let you know that Professor Thiruvit, he's very excellent, not just with translation, but interpretation as well. He used to work, yes, Dr. Thiruvit, he used to work at NHK before. He very professional translator and also interpreters. So next time, let's see. We'll let you know later on what dates for his workshop relevant to translation interpretation for sure. All right. So on behalf of the webinar host, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, and on behalf of all participants, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our keynote speaker today, Associate Professor Thiruvit Peyonathakan from Chinawatra University, for your very insightful and informative talk on translation today. We very appreciate your speech very so much. So next time in the near future, we highly hope to have you with us once again and
Okay.
again. All
Really,
right.
I'm really very happy.
So please join me to give a big hand to our guest speaker once again, please. Thank you very
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you very
Oh,
much.
thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much. And goodbye from Pathum Thani.
Goodbye. Yes.
I'm in
Take
the red
care.
area.
Yeah, take care, sir.
COVID area.
Yeah,
Okay.
please stay healthy and be safe from COVID-19, please.
Yeah, thank
you.
you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
stay healthy.
Goodbye,
Have a good
everyone.
time.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Yes.
much, sir. Thank you.
And for our friends, Burmese friend, from now on, it will be the session.
Okay, I leave now.
Yes, so you can leave. And thank you very so much. We can keep in touch and we can talk later on. And Professor Denis, thank you very so much for your huge contribution. You're always our regular professor, all right? Whatever we have the webinar, you're always our guest. Thank you very so much. All right. So I think after this session, we are going to discuss with our Thai friend about HUSOC translation and interpretation team. And one of the things I would like to have your Thai assistant is that in the near future, we are going to have the big translation and interpretation center at Buriram Ratchapat University, not just only English, Thai translation or Thai English translation. We would like to extend to other languages as well, like Burmese translation, Bangladesh translation, or Hindi translation as well. Because I think you may know that Buriram is the tourist and sports city. And after COVID pandemic, I'm very certain that a lot of tourists from around the world, they will come to watch the football match. They will come to see a lot of attraction in Buriram. No, I think they are from different countries, including Myanmar, India, Bangladesh, Western countries, and of course, they'll be invited as our translator and interpreter as well. Thank you very so much in advance for your kind consideration to be our translation and interpretation team in the near future. So at this time, I will thank you once again, Professor Nini, and my students from Myanmar, and my colleagues from Bangladesh and from India. Thank you very so much. I'll talk to you later. Thank you very so much. Keep in touch. Thank you. Thank you very so much. You can leave now, but if you would like to be with us, you are welcome if you understand Thai language. All right. Now it's Thai version. And thank you. You can leave now. Thank you. Yes, please stay healthy and be safe from COVID-19 pandemic. All right, virus COVID-19. Thank you.